Okay. I'm trying to remember. I do remember. So let me just make sure I have a good understanding of your position because I might have just forgotten. But do you believe non-binary is real, or do you like object to that?
No, I believe non-binary is real.
Oh, okay. But you object to like xenogenders, right, and neo pronouns.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we could just do the neo pronouns thing. So what's I don't know. What's the objection to neo pronouns?
Well, actually, if you wouldn't mind, I would rather talk xenogenders because the pronouns are an extension of the gender usually. Um,
Um.
because well, I don't think that xenogenders. I haven't actually gotten much in with xenopronouns, to be honest. Well, if they and them fall under xenopronouns, then I guess I would be in favor of xenopronouns because I'm okay with they, them, um, stuff like that, obviously, right? Is that what you mean? Would that be considered
Yeah.
a
I mean, I think
xenogender?
I guess in some sense that they them is considered to be a neo pronoun, but I mean like stuff like I don't know like Caesar or
Oh, I'm sorry. I said
Fayfair.
xenogender, didn't I? That time I meant neopronoun. That's why I was probably confusing you. Let me rephrase this, okay? Do you want to debate the gender part of this, not the pronoun part? Because I accept non-binary. I reject um, the other the other genders that people try to add in, like when they say like I'm cat gender, for example.
Okay, so let me just be clear. So if somebody says I'm non-binary, but I'd prefer you to refer to me with pronouns like I don't know, like Fayfair or something like that, are you gonna have an issue with that?
I would probably be polite to that individual. I'm not going to be like my moral or ethical like against it or anything. I would do it out of respect, but if I were in a position where I needed to actually defend that, I'm not sure how I would go about even doing that.
Um, I'm so confused. You mean like defend people's preferences? I'm not sure if I'm
Like
tracking.
defend why, like for a conservative that says, well, I don't want to use those pronouns, and telling them, well, don't you want to be nice isn't enough, right? Like what is the actual argument for using pronouns like fey, fair? I don't even know are those even like actual pronouns? Like nobody uses those pronouns. It's kind of silly. Then at that point, you're almost asking people to use very specific speech for just you. And at that point, I do think you're getting a little bit outside of the like they them is already like an established pronoun, right?
I think Fayfair is one of the more frequent like neopronouns.
And
But I
how would
mean,
that be used?
so someone is like, so it's like, let me see if I can find it again. It's like Fay Fair Fairs. So it's like you refer to the person, you'd say Fay did X, Y, and Z. It's fair. I don't know. It's fair computer instead of saying like their
Yeah,
computer or
I think that
computer.
if you're to the point now where you're like, I need you to use these special words for my pronouns, nah, I don't. I think you've actually defeated the purpose of pronouns to a large degree. They exist to simplify our language and make our communication more efficient. And so when we get to the point where now these pronouns are almost like a nickname where they're like unique for each individual person, then it's no longer really a pronoun. It no longer serves any utility.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's just unique to like a singular person. It seems like there's more than one person that uses like neopronouns, like uses like Fay Fairs, use
Maybe, but not nearly enough for it to be established as like a really recognized pronoun, like they them is.
Um, what's the criteria we're using to determine whether something's a recognized pronoun? Like, is it like
Well,
presence in
not
dictionary?
recognized. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's fair. I get that it's recognized as a pronoun, but culturally, we have certainly not really. I don't know how that would really catch on. Um, but
Probably catch on the same way that they them singular usage probably has, like just more people using it.
we've already been using that forever, though. Even like old Shakespeare stuff has like they them being used in singular sense.
Yeah,
That's
but
been
being used
much more
specifically,
culturally.
yeah, but just to be clear, right? You being used specifically to refer to someone to distinguish them separately from like someone who identifies as like a man or woman. I think that's like fairly recent.
Sure, but I think they them is uh, sufficient for that. I don't know. Then now, like you're literally just creating new pronouns for each thing, and at that point, do you get what I'm saying though? At least as far as it losing its utility.
Yeah, I mean, I've expressed this to other people before. I do think there's definitely like a utility question with like neopronouns, but I mean, if somebody asks me to use like a neopronoun, I don't think there's much of a utility loss in that case, especially if it's
Sure,
used
and
by more than one person.
I would respect someone like that if for just out of politeness or whatever. But it's the xenogender side of things where that's where I'm much more like have like a more like a strong position. Pronoun thing, I'm more just like I'm willing to hear. I kind of have objections sometimes, but then I also hear your point, right? And like also the fact that like it's not that common, but like you said, like there's going to be we have to work to make it more common. Like I talk about that also with um, other like LGBT related stuff as well, as far as like acceptance or more media depiction, right? So I'm with you on that part. It's more the gender thing that I think that we might have more disagreements on. Do you remember my video on that at all?
No, I think it was a while ago. Somebody just told me you were debating people, and I was like, do I disagree with Hunter or anything? And I'm like, I can't think of anything. And I'm like, oh wait, I think I remember Hunter saying something about xenogenders. So yeah, I don't remember that. If you could refresh my memory,
Yeah.
what's your objection to
My
xenogenders?
Yeah, so my problem is that gender, by definition, as a social construct, refers to just that, right? Like a social construct. There's an understanding amongst humans as to certain gender, behavior, expression, what that means. But it has to go deeper than that because people also have an internal sense of self in relation to gender. So it really comes down to what is gender? What is that? Now, I would say gender is the socially constructed spectrum of masculinity and femininity that has changed. It's going to keep changing, but that ultimately is what gender is. Because how then do I separate somebody who identifies as a man from someone who identifies as a Christian? The Christian isn't Christian gender, right? Because that's referring to a sense of self in regards to a social construct or an external thing, in this case, religion, religious beliefs, etc. But when we're talking about the gender, if it's masculinity and femininity, then how can you ever actually identify with something just blatantly off that spectrum? Non-binary, I recognize that because most of the time non-binary, at least the way I've seen it depicted, is kind of like in the middle of that spectrum. I also don't think there is a binary. I think it's a spectrum. So my overall point really is that they're like if I say I'm frog gender, there's no masculine or feminine frog unless you want to actually add gender to everything in order to somehow make it have some sort of value within the context of gender. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. I'm tracking that. So I think this is like I think this is probably gonna track how most people what most people are talking about when they say gender. I think that's true. I'm assuming you'd agree with that, right? Like most people are talking about some kind of like masculinity or femininity type thing, right?
Yeah, but it's all, I mean, it's not just, again, not just expression, but also like what we expect of people in regards to what we would consider masculine and stuff.
Okay, so then that I actually think is uncontroversial. I don't even think that people that are pro xenogen would disagree with that. So I think well I don't know if this is confusion. Maybe you understand this, but you just disagree. So like I think the idea is just that um when we're referring to these social constructs, there's not a fact of the matter about what these social constructs are, and there's also not a fact of the matter about like what things are masculine and what things are feminine, and it's also
Mhm.
not a fact of the matter about like what gender is. Like people have like a different sense of what gender is, right? And I think the
Well,
idea
then it's
it
just
was
meaningless, though. You have to have some understanding of what gender is,
yeah you
or else it
can
is a meaningless concept. And then it simultaneously becomes almost invalidating to trans people who suffer from gender dysphoria or certain gender norms that they feel are oppressive. Then it actually starts to have almost a negative effect on certain LGBT principles.
yeah, but I think the idea is like so yeah I think the idea is that we'd want to remove like we'd want to remove like gender restrictions. Like would you disagree with that?
No, not at all. But I don't think you remove that by calling everything a gender.
Um, Well, I think the idea is just that with creating, I guess like you could say like creating more genders, you're like eroding the traditional gender norms. And I think the way to get away from forcing people into specific gender roles would be getting away from traditional like gender norms.
I completely disagree with that because gender has to mean something. What you're saying is let's erode this concept
Yeah, it can mean just a social
and just
category.
but just erode it. But you're saying but just
Yeah,
erode
wrote
it.
it to just a
Just
social category. It doesn't have to be masculine and feminine. It could just be any social category. What's the problem with that?
wait, so someone who's Christian would also be Christian
Yeah, you could
gender?
be. I mean, yeah. I was about to say I don't even object to that. Yeah, you could be like Christian gender. Like, what would be the issue with that?
Okay. The issue being that you now have an incoherent thing.
How is
Why
it
do I
incoherent?
care to respect somebody? Why should I respect that even? Why do I need to? There's a difference when you can explain how the external spectrum influences an internal sense of self, and there is a succinct argument there. There's
You
a
don't think
logical
Christians have a
explanation
sense
there.
of self about their identity as Christians?
No, I think they do, but I don't know if that gives it as much validity anymore. Because now you're just saying what, like someone's gender is literally just whatever they want it to be.
So how do I'm so confused. Wait, we're determining validity of people's internal senses?
Can you answer me this? What is gender?
Um, as it's used by most people, or what am I saying that it should be used to refer to?
Okay, what do you think it should be used for?
I think it should be used to refer to social categories. So
But
like
we
any
already
kind of
have
social
social
construct in
categories.
which we group people into like I don't know some non-zero number group of people based on some set of like I don't know, like behavioral characteristics or expression characteristics, we could just like assign
Okay,
that to
so
a
here's
gender.
the actual issue. So now what you're saying is now anything can be a gender, okay? So
Yeah.
now, um, what does that mean though for people if they are assigned, if they're like raised a boy, right? But now I identify as streamer gender. Am I trans now?
Um. Yeah, in some sense. Yeah, I don't see what the issue with that is.
Okay, and so there's the problem. That's the problem
What's
right
the
there,
problem?
is that because now when I disrespect that, people are going to say I'm being transphobic. And
Well,
now you have a problem here because being transphobic is one thing. Rejecting the notion that just gender is anything or that my gender identity is one of being a streamer, even though that's your identity in other senses. I don't know what, like you're essentially saying gender should be just personality,
well,
basically.
I'm saying that. I mean, I guess in some sense, yeah, I am saying that, but I'm not. I'm not sure if I'm not seeing what the issue is. Like, if you invalidate somebody's like personal identity, I don't. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do
Because
that. I don't see what
sometimes
the issue is.
no, sometimes it's okay. I would invalidate somebody being a Christian because I think Christians are wrong.
Well, I mean, just to clarify this, you could say that the
But you would no
beliefs
no no
that
no wait
they.
wait wait. If I was arguing with a Christian and I said you are homophobic and you're bigoted and this is why, they could just say, actually, I am Christian gender and now you're being transphobic.
Yeah, the problem with this is like you're not objecting to their identity as a Christian. You're just objecting to the beliefs that they have because they're Christians. That's not the same thing.
I think that their identity in that case would be inherently flawed because they're identifying themselves with something that is incorrect.
Yeah, you could just say that those things are incorrect. I don't see what the issue is.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the call, buddy. I don't know where this is going here. Yeah, this is too boring for me. This is just gender is everything. We're gonna make gender everything to try to make gender